Hey guys, JotaMeals back with another video, and welcome back to Manga of the Week, the series where I will be covering the weekly chapters of One Piece, DanDaDan, and Chainsaw Man. And if you're here for One Piece, I hate to be the one to tell you, but there isn't any One Piece this week. Sorry, but there is DanDaDan and Chainsaw Man, specifically DanDaDan Chapter 223 and Chainsaw Man Chapter 226. Let's get into it. Let's start with DanDaDan. I don't have a physical prop to point at the camera for DanDaDan yet. I have one for Chainsaw Man and One Piece, but not DanDaDan yet. I'm working on that. However, this chapter is in the middle of the fight scene of this current arc, which feels very vague because it feels like we've just been getting a lot of small fights throughout it. Like we had the fight with Momo Okarun and the Serpos and that like King Tut guy. We had that recently, and we had the fight with Enenra. And right now we are currently having the fight between Rin, or the class rep with the singing gravity powers, Yukinobu, the Lord of the Flies girl with the little pygmies. They are working together to fight these three random people who showed up while they were at the mall. One with like a little pumpkin outfit, which I'm going to call Pumpkin for now. One with these weird glasses and a suit of armor, which I'm going to call Glasses. And the last one, with his eyes closed and he's covered in a cloak, which I'll call Cloak for now. And at the end of the last chapter, Rin and Yukinobu, they both got really cool new outfits, specifically because they started working together as Yukinobu played her piano and Rin was doing her singing. They both gained very bug-inspired outfits, which this chapter immediately starts off with as the bugs start swarming from the piano and their music towards the pumpkin guy who they were fighting, and then we get another good shot of the outfits that they have, which I think look really, really good. Yukinobu's outfit specifically is more fly-like, which makes sense because she's got the Lord of the Flies, and Rin's outfit looks more like a cockroach or just generic beetle, but I'm assuming it's cockroach because she's got like, in some of the later shots, she has like long flowy antenna per se, similar to how cockroaches have. So I don't know, I'm assuming it's a cockroach though. We don't get a full good shot of it. And honestly, I like how the bug carapace represents her turtle shell in this new bug-themed outfit for her singing, for Rin at least. And as Rin and Yukinobu keep working together, Rin is gravitying forward the pumpkin guy and is attempting to with his flames, though his flames go against gravity because they rise, and the bugs keep swarming this pumpkin guy as well. And we see the pumpkin guy do some of his fire attacks, and the bugs form a huge wall because Rin and Yuki get caught off guard because of their outfit change. Rin and Yuki get caught off guard at first and continue talking about their random outfit transformation, which is why the bugs are blocking the flames. And Rin specifically asks Yuki if she thinks that she's weird. And Yuki's like, no, you're fine. I still think you're cool. And also my outfit changed, so that's cool. And then the microphone keeps yelling at them to stay on topic, which also, fun thing, I do like how they also get the little face mask thing in their little dialogues to go along with the outfit change. But anyway, Rin and Yuki, they lock back in again and it does the classic thing that Yukinobu Tatsu does whenever he draws his characters doing crazy music. If we've seen it with the Hayashi, we've seen it with Rin, we've seen it with Yuki, we've seen it with a lot of music-based things. We've seen it, I think, a little bit with the composers, but I don't remember. Is that you get a lot of big dramatic vertical lines as the music's playing, showing that they're going intense at it. And it honestly looks insane and sends the pumpkin guy gets caught off guard, and he gets first of all swarmed, but then also we get a classic Yukinobu Tatsu double page spread of just him being flown back into the sky in this mall, along with all of the bugs in this area. Then we get this very crazy sequence of pumpkin guy trying to like activate his fire, and he does at first, but then Yuki mentions how she's going to have him swallow enough bugs that it will smother out his flames as he gets fully like coated and surrounded in these insects and or like other bugs and little critters, as he then just like falls to the ground in a little bundle of infestation. And it's very chilling. I like it. We then see the Glasses guy show back up again, and it's revealed he kind of has some sort of weird water power because he washes away the bugs specifically from the pumpkin guy, and is analyzing kind of the entire scenario, and also has the cloak guy with him too. And here we get what I'm assuming is the names of all three of these mysterious people. We technically guarantee only two, but I feel like it's implied that the third one is also there, and it would make sense because we see the guy with the glasses have water powers, and we don't get his name confirmed, but it's hinted towards his name being Vakappa, Vakappa. And I think that makes sense because kappa, like kappa, tomato, potato, that yokai, I don't need to explain a kappa to you. But kappas are typically associated with water and like plants, of course, but water. They live in the water. So it makes sense that he would have a water-based name. As for the other two, though, we get the confirmation that the pumpkin guy is named Jack Wisp, which makes sense because, Jack, the jack-o'-lantern, his tutu, his pumpkin umbrella, has a jack-o'-lantern face on the back, as we've seen in the last chapter. And also Wisp makes sense, like a will-o'-wisp with like flames. So that connects, that makes sense. Though, random fun fact, you might have already heard this before, but the original jack-o'-lanterns were actually turnips. So that's cool. They carved out little turnips, and over time they became pumpkins. However, that's unrelated to the chapter as a whole, other than it's a jack-o'-lanterns. I just wanted to say that in case you haven't heard that. Your new fun fact of the day. And the name of the cloaked guy we get is Red Baron, which is, I think, Tatsu's way of confirming to us that these outfits are red, because, again, it's very difficult to convey colors in the manga, in the black and white manga format, unless you're doing like a color spread. But if we're being honest, Tatsu barely does those. But then Red Baron, who appears to be the strategist or the leader of this group, tells Jack Wisp to go over there and light something on fire as they analyze the area. And we cut back to Rin and Yuki, who are looking down and wondering if they've actually defeated them. And they see Jack Wisp lighting something. And this is something I think is really, really clever, because as mentioned in the last chapter, their gravity is pushing them away, which then means that the flames would go towards them, and in doing so would also then generate wind, which is specifically called out here. And it's very specifically called out that there's wind because we get a crazy reveal that the Red Baron guy is not just designed the way he is because he's a Yukinobu Tatsu male with a slightly longer hair. No, he is very specifically designed this way because an Enra, that is an Enra. We see an Enra turn into a smoke form and go up via the wind. I think that's genius. That was like smart as hell move as he puts Rin into a chokehold. Then after an Enra gets a hold of Rin, puts her inside of this weird water blob form of Vakappa. And first of all, it's very cool. I like the little glasses floating in the water. And while an Enra and Vakappa are currently getting Rin, Yukishiro gets held by Jack Wisp. As they have Yukishiro kept in the hold that she's in, they give her an ultimatum of they accept defeat and admit it, or they let Rin die in the water, assumedly by drowning, which Yuki almost immediately is just like, yes, just I'll admit defeat, just don't kill her. But one notable thing is that the chapter ends with Jack Wisp using one of the fancy knives that Saint Germain was giving out to people, and we saw in the whole organization thing from the phone and the people who are getting hired to do that. The fancy knife was being pulled out and is about to cut right in between Yuki's middle finger and ring finger, assumedly to take Lord of the Flies. All in all, kind of a crazy chapter. There was many things insane. First of all, an Enra's back. I like that. That's cool. I knew the yokai before he showed up in DanDaDan. And when he did, I pointed at the page and was like, I was caught so off guard. And also, I like the name confirmation of Jack Wisp. Of the three, he was my favorite designed just from the big cloaks. And so that's cool. I liked seeing a bit more detail on the outfits of Rin and Yuki. I really like their bug-themed outfits. That was funny. And good news for any DanDaDan fans watching this right now, waiting for the next chapter, you don't have to wait too long, because there is no break next week for DanDaDan. Meaning the next chapter will come on next Monday. Another manga that will be having no break next week is Chainsaw Man. So spoilers on that there's no break next week, but yeah, Chainsaw Man chapter 226. So we resume in Chainsaw Man almost immediately where we left off last week with Denji Man and Yoru ending up in hell. However, what we see is very, very strange because it isn't fully hell as we know it. And actually, last chapter, how I thought it looked like an earthy texture in the dark, it actually was very, very different. In fact, it's basically a gigantic ocean. It's a huge, vast expanse of water in basically darkness in a void, with one little building section. Which, valid question from Denji on the first page, where did all the devils go? And almost immediately, Yoru just starts blasting, bullet after bullet, doesn't even try to slow down. She starts a couple of first times, we see her do one or two at a time, and then she just starts unloading. She just unloads to the point that Denji has to escape by jumping into the water. The moment that Denji left, we see a manhole on this roof/ceiling of the little patio area that they're in. And the manhole opens, and we just start seeing locusts swarming out. And a figure shows up through this manhole. A menacing as hell locust man. I'm assuming it's not like a fusion like Chainsaw Man if it is, but like a man-shaped figure that I'm assuming is a devil of locust shows up. Even has like the full like shadow fully obscuring his face from the distance. And it's like I felt like the Prowler sound should have played there. And it's crazy. It's a really, really good panel. And maybe this is just because of how the wings are framed, but I think that specifically the silhouette and like the kind of like a cape, the way that the wings are shaped of this locust devil, it reminds me a lot of Fake Saw. We then cut back to Denji, who at first is underwater, and then he starts resurfacing and saying, "Oh, I'm very glad that I know how to swim because, you know, I would have been in really rough luck there if I wasn't." Which is actually almost a direct reference to Reze from the recent movie and from the Bomb Devil arc from earlier. Which actually, based on how the production time usually works, maybe that was an intentional reference to the movie, because the movie recently came out and Fujimoto, as I've already mentioned before, has complained about the story, which is still insane. I still can't believe he did that because, well, actually, I can believe that he did that. It's Fujimoto we're talking about. But yeah, Denji gets up from the water. He even says "Upsy Daisy," and then he kind of has a really, really good reaction image. And that reaction image is kind of justified because he sees Yoru getting brutalized by this locust. And it's crazy. The locust's head is fully rotated to the side from its body and is spewing blood rapidly, like spraying it, as Yoru doesn't have the same neck injury, but is like being held up against the wall, injured in a very similar manner. And Denji Man says something that I think is very, very strange and interesting, is that he specifically calls out, "You fell for my perfect plan, Yoru," which brings up a lot of weird things and made me put some pieces together in my brain. So, maybe Denji planned this entire thing. He planned to go through this specific door and end up at the Locust Devil for Yoru to fall into. Maybe that was the entire plan. And if so, maybe this Locust Devil is Seraphim from the Control Devil arc. If you remember, during the Control Devil arc, Makima reveals to us a bunch of followers of Chainsaw, including Beam, Power, Principalities, a lot of names based off of biblical angels, Thrones, which is Gagalgi, and a couple strange ones that we knew of the name of like the angel, but we've never seen these guys before. One of them being a locust-like devil named Seraphim, which is again nearing like the top of the top. So, crackpot theory, until it's unconfirmed or deconfirmed in general, this devil is Seraphim, the same way that the Blood Devil is Power, the same way that the Shark Fiend is Beam, the same way that the Spider Devil is Principalities, the same way that Violence is Gagalgi. The Locust Devil is Seraphim, and we just saw it happen here. Denji Man was probably planning the entire thing, ran into the Locust Devil, probably wasn't planning the whole thing, but ran into the Locust Devil, maybe while he was cowardly running away, and Locust started being like Lord Chainsaw, the same way that Beam did. But obviously maybe not to that same extent, because this Locust guy gives a lot more creepy vibes. And based on what we see later in the chapter, there's a chance that that could still be true. But my crackpot theory, the point is, Locust right here attacking Yoru was intentional by Denji, as he says, but it's specifically because Locust is one of the devils that is a follower of Chainsaw. Similar to Blood, similar to Shark, similar to Violence, similar to Spider, and all those other unnamed ones. However, back to the actual story, Yoru pulls a crazy move of tagging in Asa in this moment to ask Denji to save her, and as Denji calls out, she's a cheater, because that's a bastard move to pull, which makes sense because she's a bastard. So, the door that Denji, Yoru, and Locust are in to hell starts shaking, and it flings open as we get this double-page shot of Denji Man slashing Locust with Yoru in hand, and manages to, by the looks of it, by the final page of the chapter, cut off a limb from Denji Man and cut off a limb from Locust, which was the limb that was holding Yoru. Honestly, an interesting chapter. Nothing too crazy other than the Locust Devil, which I still think is an insane reveal. I like the crackpot theory that Locust is one of the followers of Chainsaw. And honestly, I'm gonna like put my hand down on it right now and say this one started here. If that ever does become true, I'm gonna say I called it, okay? And the way that the chapter ended with each of them only losing an arm heavily implies that maybe Denji only did that attack on purpose. Maybe he intentionally had it so that way Locust would then still be on his side, because Locust still is, his head's on the side and it's still spurting out blood, but like now he's just missing an arm and Yoru's on the ground, and it doesn't seem like he's immediately going to start doing something. But maybe he is. Maybe it's then revealed that Control Devil's alive, any Nayuta Copers, or next Control Devil variant, and Locust is under control, which I think is very weird, but it would make more sense if it was a follower of Chainsaw based on what Denji said, and also what we've seen in the past. And as I said earlier, there is no break week for Chainsaw Man, so we will be seeing Chainsaw Man next Tuesday. And also, next Sunday, we will be seeing another One Piece chapter. Again, I think that we're ending the flashback, but I really don't know, and One Piece isn't in this video, so I don't need to talk about it at length. So I hope you enjoyed this edition of Manga of the Week. Next week, we will be covering One Piece, DanDaDan, and Chainsaw Man, the first official recording of Manga of the Week, including all three, and it will be very exciting. But yeah, what do you guys think is going to happen next? In DanDaDan, do you think that Yukishiro is actually going to lose her powers? Do you think she's actually going to get cut? We're going to see Lord of the Flies get taken away, and then maybe it's going to get retrieved later, but I don't know. Do you think that we're actually going to see Yukishiro lose her powers? Do you think last second there's going to be a crazy thing that's going to happen, save everybody, including Rin? Or for Chainsaw Man, do you think Yoru is going to be fine? Do you think Yoru is going to immediately tag back in after Asa? Because knowing her, she would. Do you think Locust is a pawn of Chainsaw? Maybe not a pawn, a follower of Chainsaw. Do you think maybe this will all just be different next chapter, and it'll be like nothing ever happened because Fujimoto? Whatever it is you're thinking, feel free to talk about it in the comments. It's always available, and it helps a lot. Don't forget to do all the classic YouTube things, like, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the future.